I want to welcome everybody. This is Patrick Durkin from the Wellness Enterprise, and we have Nico Martins with us here today. He's in Egypt right now, and his internet is a little cranky today. So we've been working with that for the last hour, and we figured out the system is to get him dialed in on a cellular network instead of over a computer. So he's here on phone only. You won't see him physically, but that's okay. He can still share lots of wisdom. And he's had some great experiences because he took the tower that I was living with. Well, it's his, so it makes sense. But he took it to Egypt. He took it to Egypt with him. So he's been having experiences over there, and he will share some of that with us. And I want to make room for you guys' questions. You know, as the community builds, people keep asking us more and more, and we learn more from your questions than we do from ours. Like, it's so fun to track down the things that you guys come up with. So at any point in the call, if you have a question and you want to use the function in Zoom where you raise your hand, we'll call on you that way. If you prefer to just wave in your video, if it's on, I'll call on you that way. You can unmute yourself and say something if your video is not on, and I'll call on you that way, or you can type something in the chat and we'll ask the question for you, or calling you that way. It's all good. So if anybody has a question of their own that they want to start with, this is it's game on. It's time to start playing the Q&A. And if you guys don't have one to start us off, I do. Oh, one of our people just turned their video on, and I was just going to ask a question. Hi, we got Dr. Ann Merkel with us today, and you were telling me on the phone the other day that you're a specialist in, like, I took it as like you work with the environment and on making healthy environments. But I wonder if you'd spend a second telling us a little bit about your background so people know where you're coming from when you ask a question.
Well, thanks for doing this, Patrick. For the last 25 years, I've been doing energy medicine, and I use a number of different tools and do everything from soul realignment and maybe some of the things that Eloise does. You know, I've been doing a lot of energy psychology and stuff like that. But I'm not a psychologist. I'm just, you know, I've got other degrees and other things. But in the last 3, 4, 5 years, I've really gotten into environmental medicine and studying not only things like toroidal fields and hydrogen water and, you know, all the toxic things in the environment, but what is COVID really? What are what are these vaccines? You know, all that kind of stuff. So I know that's a whole different can of worms. But when we talked the other day, I was telling you that in 2018, I had talked to Hagen, who's the son of Harald, and asked him about the technology in his previous mechanisms that were prior to the cosmic towers, and what he thinks about that in conjunction with 5G now. And, you know, so my questions now are, how do these older devices that have a different but similar technology, how do they relate to the cosmic towers? And, you know, will they be included in this network we are creating from tower to tower to tower, with the big ones and the small ones and everybody gaining stuff? So one of the big things in the environmental medicine area that I've been studying is the electromagnetic hypersensitivity, which actually is in the 15 to 20% of the population of humans, is actually an extra sense that people have, and everybody else is still getting zapped, but they're hyposensitive. So in other words, we're the canaries in the coal mine. And so I've got a whole connection with people like that. But, you know, back when about 40 years ago, I threw away my microwave oven because I could feel it when it was off. So, you know, it's like it's all these microwave stuff. So the whole concept of the cosmic tower, if this is real, this really is what the world needs, and all of us need it for our health.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, I think your experience is going to be a great one to track, especially as we get some towers into the United States, because you have the experience with other technologies, and we don't know for sure on that. We're in an inquiry, and it's actually people like you that are going to help us figure it out. And it's interesting, a number of the people who have purchased cosmic towers already have had the previous technology, the key machine, that you've had. So Nico, in terms of bringing this to you for questions, I know there's at least two specific and direct questions in here that I've gotten to in the conversation with Anne. One is a comparison of the key machine technology and the cosmic tower. And the second is the likelihood of the cosmic tower being a strong enough force to neutralize 5G. Like, where do we come down on that? Because one of the things I was really surprised to learn while talking with Anne last week is that, for those of you who are familiar with Reiki, she's been practicing that for a long time. And, you know, like Eloise, who had her experiences where she has sessions all the time and they go a certain way and then they go differently. Anne noticed that when they turned on the 5G towers near her, that she couldn't feel the Reiki anymore. Like, the energy wasn't flowing. And so, yeah, Nico, you ready to jump in on these two specific pieces? And, you know, the general conversation can go wherever it wants as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do want to comment myself. I had the same issue with the microwave. So I had to, close to a decade ago, I could not even have the microwave in my house, even when it was off, and I just got rid of it. So I totally get that sensitivity. And that's also, for me, why it was real easy to, you know, to figure out what the cosmic tower does. Because first of all, it's really interesting how all these pieces tied together. The way it came to me was through a shaman in Belgium, and he had, you know, a similar issue to what's being described here, that he had a really hard time and he really suffered in his health. I mean, we don't have to go into details, but it had to do, you know, also with the vaccinations and the spike proteins, and he got really, really, really ill. And nothing would work for him, or it would work sporadically. So it wasn't until he got a cosmic tower and he initially got a 35 that, you know, his symptoms started to improve. And then he was like so enamored with it that he got a 250 cosmic tower. And my first experience was at his house with a 250 with two other shamans, two other energy healers. And we sat down and none of us said a word for 25 minutes. It's like you've been meditating for a half hour and your mind is just blank and you're just being present with the energy field. And it was so amazing. And then after 25 minutes, my one friend who's an energy healer that had been having shoulder issues, she was carrying a lot of burdens at the time, she all of a sudden noticed, she's like, wow, my pain in my shoulders is gone. And then we all had similar experiences like that. So long story short, absolutely, we've been seeing that healers especially, they gravitate towards it, because just right now, to be in this realm and to stay in your center, yes, of course it can be done. We all have that innate capabilities within us, but how much of our energy do we spend to even get into a state to where, you know, the Reiki or whatever our modality is that we practice, to where that energy can flow? And I believe I would like to shift the perspective. Too often we're focused on, can it neutralize this, or can we fight this? And I like to look at it as a different perspective. This is about continuously bringing new, higher dimensional, clean, pure energy in. And the moment you have a surplus of that energy, anything else is going to flow is going to flow much better. So personally, I don't take the side of like, can we, get rid of the 5G? I like to look at it, can we really raise the natural energy and bring in 8, 9, 10, 11 dimensional energies to where it dwarfs whatever 5, 6, or who knows what technology is being used, because that's what I think it ultimately comes down to. We have to build a new energetic grid that is in alignment with nature, so we, for a better word, can have more co-creative energy towards what all of us want versus the energy that's being used to our detriment. So I think the other part of the question was like, how does Hagen's device compare to the cosmic tower? So Hagen and Harald went their own way, and then Harald actually got to know somebody that was even at a higher level than his son, who then gave him specific modifications to make and could even connect it to an even higher dimensional energy. So I think that the networks are going to be different. And I did look into the Qi home, etc. And a few things that I noticed was that it does mention on the website, I don't know all the details, and I still have to talk to Harald in person about how they compare. But what I noticed on the website is that I believe after 5 or 7 years, it has to be recharged. And for me, that is really good about the cosmic tower. Unless you physically damage the unit, it's always connected to that power source, right? And it works indefinitely. But what I do know from Harald, when he talks to the devices, about the devices versus his sons, is that the cosmic towers are much more powerful. And you can also see that even on the website, as far as the range of the cosmic tower goes much further than the older devices.
That's great. I want to underscore that a little bit in terms of the principles that I stand for in my life and that are manifested through the wellness enterprise. For us, like when we started out this journey to figure out structured water, there was a device from this company over here, and this one over here, and this one over here, and this one over here. And each person that was presenting one of those in the world was standing for their technology, saying, this one's the best. And I was standing for, I hope, all of us, and saying, well, what is the best? And I don't care which technology it is. I'll move from one technology to the next. And along that journey, I found principles. So a principle that I found is, if something is oriented toward man-made energy or oriented toward infinite energy, I choose the infinite energy. If something has an eternal flavor to it, or something that has a recharging characteristic to it, I choose eternal. So if we're dealing with a technology now, like, and when you make your selection to buy a key home, those, 5, 6 years ago, the cosmic tower wasn't available. Like they've just come on and caught like wildfire in just 2.5, 3 years. This one now has eternal energy and doesn't need any recharging. And that's what I want to be in the presence of, right? I've moved this winter out into the woods, and there were some sacrifices in moving an hour away from Asheville that I didn't really want to make. But now I'm living out here day after day after day, where if the router's off, like we can't be found. There's no cell signal or anything. Like it's one router and then that's it. There's more action going on with wildlife and streams and trees and all that. And what I find as that's happening, like I've never been so happy in my life. I'm just flat out happy all the time. And so when I have the opportunity in my own life to guide and steer from eternal energy or something that needs to be recharged, the principle I stand for is clear. And that's part of why it's like a piece of why we're presenting the cosmic tower. So we think everybody that's involved in the movement of creating harmonious energy is on the same team. Like we're all building harmonic energy forces to be stronger, hopefully, than these things like 5G that are poisoning people, that are, you know, potentially like really destroying people's quality of life. So I don't know that we're going to do a lot of talking in comparison about other devices. It's going to come up because it's people's point of reference, but I feel like we've moved into a realm where we're representing something that feels like it's of the purest love and vibration available, and that's who we're going to be for you. Let's yeah, I just wanted to share that. Jack's got his hand up, and Jack, let me go over to you now.
Hey there, thank you for this invitation. I'm looking forward to learning more about the Cosmic Tower. That's part of this question, is the Cosmic Tower. I just give you a real briefly my story. 15 years ago, I had tongue and throat cancer, and I would hold a phone up here and it was like, wow, it really hurt. And I got better. I've been doing great, yoga, good water, and health. But then I'm writing a book right now about structured water, and I call Hydroviews. And in doing so, I'm reading so much and taking in all kinds of other books, and I've been listening to my earphones too often. Well, I got blessed with outrageous headaches just before Christmas or right around Christmas, and went to the doctor, and they told me it was a sinus infection. Antibiotics, whatever. And it wasn't until I was listening to Invisible Rainbow again on my headphones, my head's throbbing, and I realized this is the reason. I took out the earphones. I've done a number of things since then, doing much, much better now, thank you. But I really want to know more about the Cosmic Tower, and maybe it's something I need to put in my book.
That's great. Well, that might be a really long answer, Jack, and we might want to set up a meeting about that and learn about where you're going with your book. You know, we are just bringing the first cosmic towers to the United States. As far as I can tell, there's maybe less than a dozen of them that have found their way here before us, but there's some pretty substantial issues about getting them into the country, and there's a lot of logistics around that. So we have a 40-foot container being built right now, and right now the stage we're in is that the towers have left the main inside of crates, and the crates are going to go inside a container, and then that's going to get shipped within about 2 weeks of this call, hopefully a little bit less than that. So as we're getting them into the States, we're looking at the opportunity to share, you know, what they are, and to also have people have the felt experience of it. So maybe we can get you in front of one. I don't want to ask you while we're online where you are. If you feel like putting it in the chat for me, that's fine. I just want to respect your privacy. But
South Florida.
You're in South Florida. Well, we have people who are very dear to us who are in South Florida too, and are demanding that large cosmic towers be down there. So I can safely say that that's one of the locations that's going to happen. And so we give you the opportunity to be in front of the towers and have that experience. But I'd be real happy if you don't have our email already, support@thewellnessenterprise.com. Jen will put it in the chat for you right now, I'm sure. And you're welcome to make contact with us, and we'll start a dialogue. And that invitation goes to everybody. You know, we're starting to have a community, and we're starting to have people report their stories, and then those people are starting to show up, and we're all engaging one another. This is how it's going to happen. We just happen to be the ones that are like facilitating the conversation. But if it happens between a lot of us, it's going to be way more powerful than it happens between a few of us. So we love the opportunity to work with you on your vision and see if there's some part of the towers that's going to help you with that. And you know, the starting point, Jen, maybe you can grab a couple of links for I think it's thecosmictower.com, which is the English-based website that talks about the towers, and then a link to the page where we talk about it on the Wellness Enterprise, which is our website. And you can look at those pages. That's really the information in the world that's in English. And we're working right now. We've got some conversations started around getting devices that come to us in these really super amazing boxes, and then moving them out to Canada and even Australia, where those conversations have started. And so for everybody looking for resources on the Cosmic Tower in English, we're the hub of that, and we want to continue to spread that out. Jack, is there something more specific that you want to ask, or did that get you where you need to be for right now?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much with EMF and protection and scams and, high price, low price all over the place. I'm just looking for like good quality information. The one thing I trust is water, because I can work with it, I can fix it. But when I hear about other tools and that, I'm looking, what is the Cosmic Tower? That's, I guess, my big question.
That's great. Nico, why don't you answer that one? What is the
I
Cosmic
have a
Tower?
picture of one.
Yeah, so I mean, I want to come back to the Cosmic Tower project, right? The Cosmic Tower is a device that creates a highly beneficial toroidal field. It's nature's way. So it doesn't require the grid, or it doesn't require an external power source. It's a toroidal field that's created using water in a fourth state, which is a cold plasma in a sense, and then opens a connection to the 0 point. So if you, for a better word, have a continuous power input from higher dimensional spaces that raise the energy here, and then also neutralize what is detrimental. And there's a lot of things that distinguish the Cosmic Tower from most EMS devices that are wanting to cancel out the EMF and are focused on that. One of them is that there is continuously new, pure, higher dimensional energy being put in. And also because of its principle that the Cosmic Tower taps into the 0 point, for a better word, and has that connection, it also means that the Cosmic Tower has a soul connected to it, because anytime you tap into the 0 point, you need to regulate the energy throughput. So in that sense, I never look at my Cosmic Tower as a device. For me, it is a being that's in my presence, and a highly beneficial being that is assisting us here. So what we're doing as part of this project is we are building a new energy grid, right, that will restore the energy grid on the planet. And when that happens and human beings are in that field, we all can tap into our true potential. And that's what it is about. Ultimately, this is all about consciousness. So the Cosmic Tower and its grid basically allows humanity to move more easily to a higher level of consciousness, which I wholeheartedly believe is the way out of this conundrum that we're in.
So Jack, one of the things that's really
powerful.
That was great, Nico. One of the things that's really powerful, Jack, is when somebody's new to the tower and they just ask all the questions that's on their mind. So if you have another one popping up right now, just keep going, have at it.
And also what I would like to mention is, Patrick, you mentioned the resources there. What is very beneficial is simply what Harald teaches, and I would definitely watch the videos so you learn all the basics, but more importantly, Harald and I have very similar backgrounds, and we're both electromechanical engineers. And then due to a health crisis, we actually sound very familiar to what you're going through when looking into alternate paths toward being healthy. And Harald really teaches what I would say a much more simplified model when it comes to health. So just that and the awareness, the shift in consciousness because of that, I think is very beneficial.
Fantastic. I'm going to jump to the chat for a second because it's an easy one for me to handle. So the container is intended to leave Germany by the 1st of February. And it's then going by sea to Texas, and then it's going by land to our location in Texas. And then it will be unpacked as a 40-foot container, and it will be split into portions of inventory that are going to go to several places in the country already, and that list continues to expand. All of the prices that we've published are inclusive of shipping. There are a lot of variables these days with supply chains and currency conversions and different costs. Right now, since our pricing was set, we set it originally, and then we were able to lower it a little bit when we got our actual numbers. And then since then, our numbers have moved against us by almost 10%. And that's about at our threshold for absorption in either direction. And so if the costs continue to move against us more, when the second container comes in, the prices will be different than this first container. So these prices right now are about 8 or 9% lower than they would be if we reset the pricing today. And we will honor the pricing on this whole container all the way through. So all of the logistics of getting it to you are included in the price. As much as possible, we're going to also blend personal deliveries. So if we can make a road trip sync with bringing you a large tower, then we want to meet you. Like, you guys are community. This is a community project, and we want to know you, and we want to know where these devices are, like from the standpoint of setting them up in harmonious situations. So whenever possible, we want to be part of that, and we will use freight companies to carry things around. And then I see an additional related question. Thanks for all your questions in the chat, guys. This is great. Just keep piling them up. And thanks for the one further too. And so this one is, since it's leaving February 1st, you estimate about a month for arrival here. So Susie, I'm being really cautious about not giving dates because I'm just not in control. And so what I can do is share milestones. So the milestone right now that we're working on is boxing. And then we're taking the container to the port, and then we're sending it to Texas. And it's going to take what it's going to take, because I could tell you 2 to 3 weeks is normal transit time, and then it could get to Texas and it could sit a mile offshore, or it could come right in and be undocked. So we just don't know. And I don't want to set us up for stressful situations. So the milestones are what the milestones are. And are all the devices on the current container sold, or will I be able to purchase one once they arrive? At this point, we have orders for ones for the container that's coming in, and we have inventory available for the container that's coming in. And we're not about to run out this week or next week. There's a good amount of inventory. Like we pulled every resource possible to make this first buy as big as we could possibly stomach, and we did that because we didn't want to have any instability in that. And it was the biggest capital expenditure I've been a part of in my career. And if you buy now and give us the money to continue, we haven't paid off the full balance of it. Harald has actually let it start moving without the full balance being paid, and we're even under what we promised him on the balance, and he's still letting it move forward. So if you give us money, we're just sending it right over to him, and that just breeds more production and more infrastructure globally. So if you're in a position to buy, we love your support. And if you want to wait until they arrive, that's okay. Obviously, if you buy before they get here, it's guaranteed that you'll get the price. And the prices will change when the prices need to change. I don't want to create any fear around that. It's simple. We built a modest profit margin into facilitating the flow of energy on this project, and we have assumptions for how much cost going against us we're willing to absorb. And we recognize that over the long term, that'll go in both directions. And we also have a responsibility to lower prices when that goes in our positive direction. So we're just going to be transparent about it, and it's the costs that change are just going to be a result of what's really happening in the world. All right, that's enough of my voice. This is getting a little messy over here in the chat, and so I don't know where to go next. So I'm going to go down through the chat and see about clearing that. And anybody who wants to raise their hand, you can jump in and be live too. And I love your engagement. It's so fun for me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If you have a cosmic tower device, do you need a structured water device? So that is a great question. So you know what? I want to ask a question that Nico answers. I'm tired of hearing my voice. Where do we go next? I'm a little all over the place, Jen. Okay, I really want to get Nico on board. So let me try this one. So Nico, what causes a larger tower to be more effective than a smaller tower? And how is the distance determined and how far the towers reach? It seems logical, which see about that, but it seems logical that the ability of what they do will decrease with distance. What do you think, Nico?
That's a great question. And first thing that I want to say about that is that it seems logical from what we've been taught about physics, but it's actually not the case, because we're not dealing with transversal waves or waves like a sound wave. Here, we're dealing with scalar waves, and scalar waves have a completely different set of characteristics. And one of them is that in case of the cosmic tower, the strength of the field remains the same even as you go further away, and then suddenly it drops off, right? So that's something we're not used to with traditional signals. So we really cannot look at it from what we've been taught in school for the most part. So what makes a large cosmic tower more powerful than a smaller one? So first of all, what powers the cosmic tower inside of it on the physical level is forward phase water. And we can have a separate Zoom meeting just about that, but forward phase water is nothing like the water that we are used to in the liquid form, right? So forward phase water is living water. It's like a cold plasma. It's like a charge. So what happens is the forward phase water in the top container is basically programmed to start spinning clockwise, and in the bottom container to start spinning counterclockwise. And when you have these charges rotating in opposite direction, it creates a toroidal field and then opens up access to the 0 point. We're in the middle where there is a crystal, and like we mentioned earlier, there is the soul attached to that to regulate the energy throughput. So when we're talking about sizes, what are the things that determine how powerful a cosmic tower is? The first one is the amount of water in there. Just look at the water, at the force phase water, as a really powerful charge that is in there. The more water that is in the container, the more powerful it is going to be. But that's not the only factor. When you look at a CT220 and a CT250, right? The 250 is about 30 centimeters bigger than a 220. They actually have the same amount of water in them. But with the 250, the two vessels are separated. They're further apart. And when they are further apart, that actually creates a stronger field. It's kind of like if you have a, elastic band, for a better word, and, you put it further apart, right? There's more torsion, there's more tension being built up. So that's the second factor, like how far are the containers apart? And then also the bigger cosmic towers, because they have more energy, they're also connected to higher dimensions than the smaller ones. So the smaller ones, the personal ones, up to a 75, they're not as high in dimensional connection as, for example, a 220 or a 250. So you can look at the smallest ones, the mini, etc., to just protect your field when you're away from your personal cosmic tower. You can look at the 35 to 75 as being more of a personal healer and assisting you in your own personal journey, while the big cosmic towers, they really regenerate the environment and build a new energy grid and also support the smaller towers. I hope that answers the question, Patrick.
I think you did great. Thank you so much. The next one that I have for you is, can the cosmic tower encourage a baby that's not walking to walk?
I do not know the answer to that because I honestly don't know. I'm not a baby specialist, so I don't know why babies don't walk. But I can generally answer that whenever you create a beneficial, energetic environment, and also from my own work, dealing with traumas and dealing with emotions, whatever is the highest potential gets to unfold. Right. So the cosmic tower definitely creates an amazing environment to where we give our children, animals, and plants, right, the best environment possible to allow what needs to unfold.
Okay,
and
great.
Then there's the other part, of course, that the cosmic tower is conscious. So if you set your intention, right, to help release whatever blockages there may be on an energetic or in any of the layers, well, the cosmic tower will go to work to do that. Right?
Sounds good. Another one that's in the chat here is, how does the cosmic tower help with cooked food?
How does it help with food?
Yeah.
So to answer that question, let's really quickly reiterate what Harald talks about when Harald talks about health, right? What's the difference between a body alive and then that, a few seconds later, it's basically that the electricity, the charge is gone. So one of the issues we have with our food today is that our food is dead. It's not alive. So there is no charge in it, and that's what the body really craves, which is charge. It's the electricity. So of course, if we're going to eat junk food that is already dead, it's not like the cosmic tower is going to make it like, the fountain of youth or like the perfect food. But of course, if we have living foods like vegetables, like fruits, and even water, one of the amazing things that the cosmic tower does is to put the charge back in. Because if you get an organic apple and you remove it from its source of charge, which is Mother Earth, within 8 hours, definitely in our environment now where it's being bombarded with Wi-Fi, with 5G, with who knows what, the charge will be gone by the time it's on your plate. Right? So the cosmic tower actually puts that charge, that electricity back in. And that goes for food, that goes for the air, that goes for the water. So we're being nourished at an energetic level.
Awesome. There's a question here about why is the cosmic tower not certified like other structured water devices? So I'll take that one on. So first off, we don't have a tower in the United States right now. The only one that we have is the one that Nico has, and that's in Egypt. So doing testing is gonna happen. The other thing is that the certification that we have on the Aqua Energizer devices is for a very specific type of structuring, and I think that it's important for the industry to be a little bit more transparent. So in my opinion, even though there's a whole industry that I'm a part of that calls itself the structured water industry, there's actually no such thing as not structured water. Everything is structured water. It's just that some water is structured toward chaos and some is structured toward harmony. And so inside of that, the world has recognized some forms of science, and we have, as a collective, edified Dr. Gerald Pollack as a preeminent scientist with regard to his book, The Fourth Phase of Water, and what structured water is. So he taught a methodology for verifying the presence of structured water to Gina Bria from the Hydration Foundation, and she initiated the HIFO Labs, which is her entity to test water and see, based on her training with Dr. Pollack, that a device meets that standard for structuring water. So I have submitted personally multiple products for that testing and received results on them. And some products have failed that test as being like, yes or no, check the box. Does this structure water? No. Okay, well, that doesn't mean it doesn't structure water. Everything structures water. My words right now are structuring water. There's no such thing as not structuring water. It means that no means no to the methodology that Gina Bria was taught on by Dr. Gerald Pollack's laboratory. So in terms of the cosmic tower being tested there, I don't even know whether that's something that we will pursue or be interested in. I'm way more interested in experiences of people who are really energetically sensitive and gifted. Like, for example, if we could work with Dr. Ann to find out whether her experience of Reiki, which she has decades of experience with and is now not available to her since the 5G towers came on, and then that becomes available to her again in the presence of a cosmic tower, that to me means more than a certification. Because what I care about is, like, you know, when I wear this little shape on my chest, things happen that like today, I put some hand stuff on that's made from beef tallow. And I ended up, there's a horse here on the property, and Tango's very, Tango likes to kiss a lot, and Tango likes to like snuggle. And so I go up to the fence and I kind of lean my head in and I snuggle with Tango a lot, and Tango usually licks my hands. And today I offered my hands and Tango didn't want anything to do with them. And I was kind of amused. And then he kept like pushing my head up and he kept trying to pull on this. I've never worn this around that horse before, but this is what he wanted to pull at today. This is what he wanted to nibble on, not my hands. This little sacred geometry. So this to me is creating a harmony in life. And I don't really have a lot of interest in finding out what people who are in the scientific domain are saying about things. It's not that it's not important. It's just not, it's not of great interest to me. What's of great interest to me is whether Dr. Ann gets her Reiki back. What's of great interest to me is whether human beings get the feeling of like walking barefoot on the earth and being joyous and happy. That's what matters to me. And so, you know, Zane, who's here, is a Qigong master, and he's out in the desert, and he's going to be getting his cosmic tower. And I want to know how his life is enhanced, because he's profoundly tuned to natural energies. And what I think we need to do as a community is stand with each other and tell each other the stories that we experience. So yeah, Anne, you want to share, please?
Yeah, the one little story I told you about Reiki was an interesting, frustrating one for me, but even more than that, I have not taken meds for, you know, like 20, 30 years. And as soon as they activated the 5G satellites that are in orbit, that's when my body started having reactions and having problems. And then they put up a couple towers locally that also bother me. But my understanding of the technology, going back a couple questions, is that, and all I've done is look at the videos that you posted, thankfully, and talk, about the Q home that I bought years ago from Hagen. And my understanding, even back in the 80s, my ex-husband's a chiropractor, and we bought something that was a cosmic box. Actually, I've got it right here. I don't even know why it's sitting on my desk, but this little device keeps you from, talking about keeping food healthy and green and lasting longer. This crazy thing has powder. It doesn't even have water, but it's got crystals in it. And so devices have been made for many, many years and have been marketed. Not everybody even knows what they're marketing. At least Harald can talk a little bit more about his. But my understanding of the health, like the walking baby or the structured water or the vegetables that stay good longer, is that there are certain technologies, including just far infrared saunas and mats and stuff like that, that will help to build your outer auric structure. And in being there and helping to restructure and to strengthen that barrier between, our energy and all the other energies interfering on the outside, there are things like the structured water, like this, the water from these different springs, the sacred springs that's supposedly included in the towers. And all these things contribute. And in my acupuncture practice, if I put somebody on a mat, a far infrared mat for 10 or 15 minutes, and then test them with my device, their meridians have already started to rebalance themselves. So when I hear a lot about the cosmic tower, it kind of resonates with, I bet that what it's doing, it's helping us to regenerate. It's helping our bodies to rebalance, and we become stronger. So whatever is in the environment is not going to be neutralized. It's not going to be changed. We're not going to be entrained to it like some devices do, but instead we will just be strong, and we can go with that scalar earth vibration where others that aren't connected to this energy cannot do it. That is what I surmise from, what I know. And the Reiki is just, it's like there's so much static now that I just feel, I'm kind of on the edge of the forest like you, Patrick, and I'm only a couple hours from you, it sounds like. But, when they started coming and putting things up and they're already with the orbiting devices, then that's when I started having any kind of physical pain or trouble sleeping. And, so I think it's just a matter of once we get this grid that can be stronger and healthier and more connected to the real earth energy than what humans have created and are putting up for surveillance or whatever purposes they're putting it up. I think that is when we'll all start getting healthy again on our own, because the body knows how to rebalance itself. And this would help.
Yeah, I'm with you. Having spent the last 10 years in the structured water industry, it was always my voice to one person to assist them to understand and hopefully put structured water into their mouth and back into their heart. Like, that was my dream. Like, if I could get them reconnected to their heart, then they'd be able to follow their guidance. That's how I thought about things. And now it's like, it's not enough. It's like, I want to be part of this project so that I can help to create a harmonic energy field to live in, much like the one I'm living in the woods right now this winter, because we become different in the energy field that we're in. And so, somebody's got to restore harmony on this planet. and the forces that are destroying harmony are strong, and they're underway, and they're accepted, and they're proliferating, and they're just deepening their destruction. And I think we hear the call collectively. It's like, we got to come together, and we got to say, well, we're just building a new earth energy field on our own. And I'm truly like blown away by the changes in my sensitivity in the last few months, because just a few months ago, Nico would ask me like, well, tap into the tower. And I'm like, well, I need to see it to tap into it. And he's like, oh, okay, I just tap into it. I'm like, okay, well, I don't understand. And then the day after the towers were picked up in Germany, I was talking to Jen. I was like, I can feel them. Like, I can feel them now that they're moving toward us. I can feel our container of towers being put together. It's like this, it's new vibratory, I don't want to call it a plateau because it's not fixed, but it's like a new elevated space. And I can just feel that coming. And that sensitivity has just come on in a couple of months. So imagine as we together, like, knit these things together. And we're starting to get a bunch of the towers purchased and deliveries planned for around the country. And I get that we're going to have the country covered with large towers pretty fast. It's really super amazing. Eloise, there's so many topics that have been like around your experience that I wanted to pull you into the conversation. So I hope you don't mind. And not all of us, like probably not many of us, have as much experience as you do with working with different energies. And for those who don't know who Eloise is, she lives in Australia. So thanks for getting up early. And she got a cosmic tower delivered into her life from her mom, and probably gave an eye roll and was like, what did you do now? And then she started using it. And from what I understand, your shamanic healing practice, like the load that you can lift and what you're able to do has really changed by being in this harmonic field. So maybe you could speak to that for a second about how it's changed for you since having this.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I see clients and do energy healings. Can you hear me well?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, great. Yeah, it's like I'm working on a higher level with more energy available for the sessions. And it's like I've got more helpers. I'm always working with spirit guides, my higher self, source energy. And it's like I've got more resources at hand to help the clients clear what needs to be clear, but also bring in what's needed. And I'm finding I don't have to clear myself very much. Well, never really. I don't feel tired or drained. And also I'm finding when people come in, they're presenting with less lower vibrational energy problems. So I call lower vibrational energy things like spiritual attachments, dark energies. In the shamanic world, we have different names for them, but they, ETs, entities, things like that. People are, when they're coming into the towers field, those things just aren't really existing. So I'm working on all these other things for them. And the sessions go deeper, and it's just like easier, so much easier. I was quite stunned actually, because it was unexpected,
Yeah, I love that you're able to get to deeper things with people. It's like, we can, I'm not even going to say I had a pain in my hip for 11 years. And I think that a lot of the focus was on diminishing the pain. And I've been working on publishing a new crystals course with our crystal professional, Charles Matthew, and he got me to shift my language. And it was just a really simple shift. He's like, Patrick, I just want you to focus on the freedom of movement that you have. I'm like, oh, okay. And like, literally, that was the last day of pain. It was a couple of weeks ago. And I'm like rolling along right now, just celebrating my freedom of movement all the time. It's, it's quite an experience. So when we stop having to fight the lower level energies, and we get to like focus our language and our thoughts on the creation of the harmony. Like, what if everybody here knew that we were building the new Earth grid, that we were building the harmonic energy field to live in, and that it was already a done deal? Like it's already here, and we're just all listening for our part and doing it. So with that said, there's some people asking questions about size of devices, and we get some emails about, hey, can I, like Eloise got a very small one, a Cosmic Tower 15, which is only 15 centimeters
But
tall.
I have since purchased a 75
There you go.
because when I have a 25, I can feel a big difference in the field between the 15 and the 25. The potentials are exponential. It's quite astounding, actually, the difference in when you go through the size of the devices and the potential available.
Yeah, and so we, sat from a business standpoint and a development of people standpoint, and we've contemplated the U.S. market. We didn't haphazardly choose the 3 devices that we've picked. We very intentionally picked the 3 devices, and so people are asking, well, are we going to get any of the mini ones in? And the answer right now is no. We're actually not, and it keeps coming up, and so that's more business we could do. But it's not about doing business. It's about making sure that the person is set up for success. And so we don't know that you wouldn't have a beneficial effect from a mini by itself, but we do know the place to focus is on the bigger ones, and that we will get more positive outcomes by focusing on the 3 that we've chosen than if we did them all. There's also just simple logistical issues, like we had to stretch further than we've ever stretched as a company to be able to swallow a container. Like, it's a big project. And at some point, you just have to make choices in the project about what is really going to support the project to move forward, because that's the name of the game, is how do we build this energy grid? So we ask that you do your best to lean into the selection of sizes and devices that we've made, and recognize that one of the thresholds that is getting them in and through customs and getting them delivered to people in a timely way. So you order, we ship one to you, and 3 days later you've got it. Or you order and we have a freight company pick it up if it's one of the big ones. The big ones are like 400 pounds. So it takes something to get those delivered to you. Eloise, thank you for your sharing, and I'm so glad you're here. It's really sweet that you're here. So somebody asked what size Nico took to Egypt. He's got a 35, and I've already addressed that right now we're not going to be doing any smaller than the 35. And then what else do we have? Anybody want to ask a question live while I'm going through the chat? That's welcome. So somebody asked if you have a cosmic tower, do you need a structured water device? And I'm super excited to learn about the answer to that. And I'm never gonna stop learning. And I'll tell you the stories when I know. What I've learned so far is that there is a additional layer of softness and sweetness that people experience with water, with the cosmic tower and structured water device. So far they don't seem to exclude one another. They seem to take harmony further. And if I get contrasting information about that, I'll tell you that too. Like, I'm not just going to tell you the one that's good for commerce. I'm going to tell you the truth of people's experiences. So people seem to experience additional benefits by either adding a tower to an aqua energizer house or adding an aqua energizer with a tower. We've had feedback on both of those. Nico, can you address how they determine the distance that each tower reaches?
Yes, you can dowse it for yourself if you know how to dowse, right? So we got it here in Egypt too. I actually tuned into it, and then Harald did it independently from me, and we came to the same number, right? And I think this is part of also the evolution that we need to go through, because there was a lot of questions around making measurements and certifications. And for me, this is all like giving your power away to institutions, right, to tell us what should benefit us. So I'm all about, hey, I want to tune into myself and my experience, as you were talking about earlier, that our own experience, we need to learn to value that. And we're getting to a point to where consciousness is the ultimate technology for us. And it's the one thing that is missing in science today, right? It doesn't talk about consciousness. What if everything is consciousness? Right? So I believe for us to, in a sense, take our power back or to return into our power, we need to learn to determine all these things for ourselves and trust our feelings, and that we're feeling better, and that nature is doing better around us. Plants are growing, insects, there's more bees. These are all the things that, for me, are way more important than some institution telling me, oh yeah, this device works according to our standards, because the science that we're being taught is so obsolete. Now, basically, everything when it comes to toroidal fields and measuring that, well, toroidal fields are in a sense, they are the key to free energy. So it's really difficult to get your hands on these devices, but there's a lot of indirect testing that has been done, right? You take an aura picture, you measure the aura, and then somebody even has a cosmic tower mini with them, and you can immediately notice changes. The other one is like measuring the free electrons in the air, getting to a certain value, and then putting a cosmic power in and noticing how it has dramatically raised like 10 volts. I mean, there's pictures that have been taken from water, right? So there's a lot of indirect, but what I really love about today's call is ultimately it is about our own experience, right? And it's about us coming back into alignment and humanity going to a different level of consciousness. So yeah, we can dowse and we can measure it using our own consciousness.
I love that we're encouraging one another to know our own truth, and really the people that we lean on as experts now are just the people who've been learning their own truth and leading from there for longer. So, the more confidence we gain in doing it ourselves, the less that we need somebody else. I'm still working my way down through the chat, and on the last topic that I spoke to, Eloise shared a comment. She said, in my experience, the cosmic tower enhances the ability of the structured water device to energize water. She's ran a few tests with dowsing the energy levels of a cup of water without the structured water device, and with a structured water device within the field of the cosmic tower. And with the cosmic tower, a structured water device, the energy level of the water is much lower. I think she's meant to write without the cosmic tower or structured water device, the energy level of the water is much lower. And she also said that she could feel her cosmic tower as soon as she ordered it. So that seems to be a thing. Zane, you ordered a towering and you've tapped into yours too, haven't you? Did I make that up, or is that part of your experience?
Yes, exactly. I was going to say, I kind of struggled prior to my ordering, trying to get the finances together. I went for the CT 75. I really stretched it, and there was some dynamic tension there in my process. However, it just everything felt right. And then the next day when I woke up, I felt very excited. I felt this lifting in my spirit, like I was actually connecting with it, and it has stayed since then. Here it is, like 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, and I still feel it. Like I get more excited as I get closer to it, or it gets closer to me. So I do think there's some kind of dialogue going on. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. If you guys knew how much it was for Zane to pull together $4,000 to get a Cosmic Tower 75, you'd be in awe. So Zane was really called step up. It's one of the neatest things for me is to see somebody who's like really proficient. Like Zane's a Qigong master. In fact, he's going to be joining our Lavanya community as a teacher and teaching people Qigong very soon, which we're really excited about. But when people who are really well versed in energy like that and had wisdom in this life, like lived some decades and cultivated a perspective and found some peace. And when people like that are willing to really stretch, that's something. That's really something. Thanks for sharing, Zane. Next question is, do you believe, Nico, this is probably directed to you. Do you believe the souls in the tower will protect the towers from harm no matter where they are?
Sorry, what is that? The soul within the tower?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're building a grid here, right? We're building an energetic grid, and this is why the big towers are so important, because they, in a sense, they protect the smaller towers, and they also, if something does happen to it, unless you physically break it, of course, right, they are able to regenerate and to take care of the smaller towers. And also, Harald and his team, they're always able, because, for example, I traveled so much. I went to Mexico, I came to Egypt, and I told Harald, hey, to me, everything feels fine. Can you please have your people tune in? And they tuned in, and everything was working fine. But then they also, they upped the energy, right? So absolutely, I wouldn't say it's necessarily the soul, but it's the entire network that helps each other out and then protects it. And of course, your cosmic tower can be targeted to be destroyed with an energy weapon, but then again, it can be repaired by other towers. So, they cannot hit it all at once. You know what I mean? They cannot take every single tower out there. So the network is like self-repairing. And then also there are very high spiritual people that work with the network and that are involved in this.
And you guys, that's another aspect of why we ordered a container, is that we didn't want to bring in a few small devices, like ship a 35 here and a 75 there. We wanted to bring in 40 feet of them and then have that energy get distributed around the country so that from its origin and outward, it was supporting itself. That's part of why we needed to step up that way. And I think that feeds in well to the next question, which is, in addition to the CT75 in my home, would a Mini be helpful in my Tesla, or are there too many batteries for the Mini to be effective there? Nico, did you hear that one okay?
Yes, sounds like Susie's question. So it all depends. It's individual, right? I think Anne was talking earlier about if your aura, somebody with a 2 meter aura or 5 meter aura, you have a much more of a buffer, right? So there is no rule of thumb as this device will do in any circumstance, right? I think I talked to Harald about this specifically today, and he said he would definitely go bigger in a Tesla, but it could very well be sufficient, right? If you're already benefiting from your 75 and you only sit in the car, let's say a half hour a day or whatever it is, yeah, of course your aura is going to be taxed when you're in this car, but a Mini might just be enough. But definitely when being outside of the field and knowing like how bad the electric cars are, I mean, personally, I would definitely have a cosmic tower in an electric car, and I personally would err on the side of caution and go for a bigger model, just because we know it's so detrimental with the electric cars. But again, the answer, whether it's sufficient, all depends on the individual. How healthy are you? Do you have any energetic blockages? How big, for a better word, is your aura? And then what kind of tower do you have at home that charges you up? And then, you know, how far do you travel in your car every day, et cetera?
It's great. You know, I want to say something about this as the CEO of the Wellness Enterprise. We've worked diligently daily for 11 years to earn a sterling reputation, and our customers really love us, and they count on us to tell the truth and to have integrity. And we're involved with products that influence subtle energies, and so that's a place where you really have to have integrity. And so if I put our brand around a Mini, and somebody uses a Mini in a Tesla, and then they're taking their friend to lunch, and the friend says, well, I can't feel anything, then I've set us up for failure. Like I don't feel good about that situation. But if I put all the energy and attention into building a network of the big towers, and then that creates a more felt experience for us, and then a higher percentage of people could hop in that Tesla and take a ride with a Mini in it and feel it, I feel like I've set us up for success more. And I follow my guidance, and I just am not guided to have Minis be part of the experience in the US yet. So that's my opinion. That's not, you know, what Nico's saying per se, or what anybody else is saying. That's just how I feel about it. Like, I want to set people up for success, that if they buy something from the Wellness Enterprise, they're going to be like really happy that they know us. And I think that means focusing on bigger. So there's another question about which sizes are we focused on, and there's three. There's the Cosmic Tower 35, which is it's 35 centimeters, and I think that equates to about 14 inches. And then there's the 75, and so by doing a little extrapolation, that'd be like 29 or 30 inches. And then the Cosmic Tower 220, and I know that one's 7.2 feet tall. And those are the three we focused on. So we've got one way of thinking about it would be the CT35 for a home, the CT75 for an apartment building, and the CT220 for influencing the entire environment around you. And not just like right around you, but for like hundreds of miles in all directions. So those are the three devices: the 35, the 75, and the 220. Let's see. How many large towers have been sold from the first container? We have 32 large towers coming in, and I think we know where 8 of those are going. So about a quarter of them. And what part of the country do we still need? I think we can have overlaps. Like there's one person that I'm talking to who, if they purchase in Indiana, will have from Detroit to Milwaukee, all the way down through the middle of the country, getting to San Antonio on one side, and hundreds of miles below Lubbock on the other. So a pretty wide shot there. We also have Utah and Reno. South Florida is definitely going to happen. It's probably going to happen with a bunch of them. But there's getting the initial one, and then there's overlapping fields. You know, they don't put one 5G tower out there. They put tens of thousands of them. And so we're creating a harmonic energy field to live in. The more, the merrier. Let's see what else. Oh, I know, Nico, I got a question for you. In terms of the way they travel, so what happens in terms of activating them and not activating them? You have some experience with this with your trip to Egypt and stuff. And how do people work with that? And if you're receiving your CT35 or 75 in the mail, or your 220 by freight delivery, what do you do as you introduce yourself to your tower?
Yeah, so the cosmic tower, when it's, when it's not standing up, so when you lay it flat, it's basically, it's not active, right? It's the moment you're standing up that it becomes activated. And then it's a matter of tuning into it, at least for me. I mean, it's a being, right? It's not a device. So it's like you would greet any guest in your home, right? To make that connection and get to know each other and let it guide you as to where it wants to be placed in your home. As far as traveling, it's very important, right, to pack it well, to pad it well, and that if you're flying, that it goes in your checked luggage, because it does contain water, so you cannot take it as a carry-on. But I've traveled with it, through Europe. I've traveled with it to the United States, from the United States to Mexico, from Mexico to Egypt, within Egypt on domestic flights, and I never had one question or one issue with it. Of course, I do set my intention, for it to be protected, right? And but yeah, I've not seen any issues with that.
Cool. So if you wanted to get a bigger one in a Tesla, I'm thinking both the 35 and 75 are potential, and you would just put it upright. You'd probably
put a 35 in there. The one thing you have to be careful about is that it's not sitting outside when it's freezing, right? If your car is outside. That's the only thing that I can think of. But if I had a Tesla, I would probably go with the 35 and have it standing up, because movement doesn't affect it. I mean, it stays activated.
Nice. Jude in San Francisco asked about indoor use only. For the most part, yes, we want them only. If there's any risk of freezing, then 100% indoor. And then where would you put it outside for a community? I think actually the way to go with the community is to look for business owners who benefit from traffic, who are in the domain of creating a more harmonized world. And so, there's hundreds of answers to that. There's so many small businesses these days that fit that description, but really anyone that would want people to come in, because people are going to be in awe of these things. And some people travel hundreds of miles right now to experience a competing technology. It's funny, I think we all count on me to some degree to experience different technologies and learn about them. And I tried to learn about the EES system here locally, and it just didn't work with scheduling. And I'm planning a trip right now to Canada, and somebody called me this morning, like literally last night as I went to bed. It's like, what route shall I take to Canada? And then while still in bed, I got a call from an old friend this morning who said, hey, I want you to come to Indianapolis and sleep in the energy field of an EES system. And I was like, that's already on my to-do list, and that's only a couple hours out of my way. Like, how's Friday night? And so now I know what route I'm taking to Canada. So we'll go have that experience. Okay. Where else are we? I feel like I just jumped around a little bit. Jack left his email in the chat. So if you pick that up, that'd be great. You got it already. Anybody with live questions, please go ahead and type them in or raise your hand. I'm going to go back to a couple that we had. Oh, Jude, yeah, come on. Please unmute yourself. Still muted. I'm still not hearing you. I see you unmuted. No, you didn't get it yet.
I tried. Okay, I tried. Anyhow, you got Middle America. So do you have anything on the West Coast, San Francisco, anywhere?
Yeah, actually, we have one. I don't want to say the specific location because they continue to protect people's identities and their locations. But there's one that is that's a CT 220 that's within range of San Francisco. So San
Okay,
Francisco.
so now this is the other thing. You want to protect people. I was sitting there thinking, if this thing is so valuable, if a business has it, especially in San Francisco, people are stealing left and right. You really wouldn't want it. You really wouldn't want to advertise that you have this. You would just want to have it. Is it something that, I really have to look at the website. I haven't, I'm sorry, but this is very intriguing. Is it something you would have out so people could admire it? Is it something that you want to talk about, which I think you should, but then again, is it something that might go missing in the night if it's,
Sure, great question. Nico, you want to run with that for a minute?
Yeah, sure. Well, if it's a CT220, a 400-pound tower, I mean, they're going to need some equipment to get it. But let's not forget that the cosmic tower creates a harmonized field, right? It creates a harmonious field, and it has protection of its own in that way. So lower entities, etc., cannot really thrive in that field. And I believe, like a lot of people that are doing the things that you were talking about, would not do well in a harmonious field like that, being that close to a tower. So that being said, it's good to have it in a location, definitely indoor, where you can share it with other people. The one rule really is don't have people take pictures of it, because it can be tuned into if you have the picture, and it could technically be hit then with an energy weapon. That doesn't mean that it's lost forever. It can be repaired, but it's just a hassle that we don't necessarily want to go through. So from what I have seen with my own cosmic towers and with the big ones, definitely when there's a sufficient network, the network takes care of itself. And not only does the amount of synchronicity that you experience in your life, the right people walking in, increase amazingly from my own experience, it's also good at keeping the people that are not beneficial for that field out for a better way.
Okay, great. Thank you, Nico. It brings to mind that as we build the network, particularly in the early stages where we're not as dense with the distribution, we might want to build a regular maintenance protocol of checking in on each and every tower, and particularly for businesses that do go public with it and make it available, and make sure that they stay running at full capacity.
Yeah, absolutely. But this is also why it's important, for each individual to create their boundary. You will feel it, right? I mean, and having the cosmic towers, especially the big ones, being with people that can tune into the field, right, and notice when something is off. That's real important, because we are all going to be stewards of this network.
Yep, absolutely. We're in it together. Question came in, Nico. Can the CT75 be kept on the floor with a rug?
Kept on the floor. So a CP75, even though it has like a stand, like, we call this like a pedestal that it sits on, it wants to sit like on a table or on a shelf. You definitely, you want the glass balls kind of to be at heart center. Those smaller cosmic towers, the personal ones, they do not like to sit on the floor. They like to be higher up. Now the 220s, they sit on the floor.
Okay, go ahead, Jude. You're still muted.
I got it. So with that, about I have this IC pyramid unit, and it was suggested to keep it near, it has no electrical. This isn't no electrical, right? So the one that I have is no electrical. It's a different product. I should actually send you some information, Patrick. You might just to know. But anyway, they suggested it needs to be next to something that's electrical running all the time. So I have it near a salt lamp. And I have it far away from internet, which they suggest from my router. Now, do you have any, you're just saying higher up on a shelf, that made sense. Any about proximity to or from your internet router or whatever you call that stuff, the box?
Sure, your modem. Nico?
Okay. Yeah, so first of all of those recommendations, they are on the website and they are on the Wellness Enterprise. So there's the do's and don'ts for, that you can read through and review. But generally, we want to keep it away from internet routers, from electrical equipment. You want to give it a nice space to where it doesn't have to deal with that interference, like a few inches away from it. It's not like it wouldn't function. It's just like, hey, don't make it even harder on the device. So yeah, give it a nice spot and don't, set your internet router on top of it, right? I mean, keep it away from any of those loads that it's already neutralizing.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Jude, I'm still learning, and I'm also really geographically flexible right now. Like I'm just being called to move quite a bit, and I think I'm going to be moving even more in the coming months. Part of facilitating, delivering, and being around towers, and I think I'm going to really think about it aesthetically and want to set towers up in the location that's most harmonious. That's like the hub of a home that is just this an energetic sweet spot. It's going to feel right. And I'm going to spend time and attention on that. Not just going to throw one in my bag and carry it in and stand it up on the floor next to where I unpack. It's going to be the first thing I carry in, and I'm going to set it with some honor. And that feeling of awareness of treating, when Nico said it's a being, not a device, early on, that has taken a while to wash over me. And as it's washing over me, I get what an absolute privilege it is to have the opportunity to steward one of these or many of these. And I am intending to treat them very tenderly and to really put them in a place where I think that they are flourishing in spreading their magnificent energy.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. Susan wrote in the chat, I missed the bit about not taking photos of the device. So Nico, if you could just go back to that topic and just specifically write on that. Why don't we take photos of cosmic towers?
Yes, especially not of the really big ones, because if somebody has the photo, you can tune into it where it is in time and space, and it can be attacked that way. So that's why Harald and we recommend not to take any photos and publish them, especially for the big ones, right, like the 220s.
Perfect. Okay, guys, I'm down to 2 small questions, and then we can ask Nico about his trip in Egypt and things that he's learned over there. So if you have any other questions, that's kind of where I am in the queue, and I'm happy to make room for you live or for things you send in the chat. So the first of the 2 smaller ones is could you please talk about the cosmic tower and neutralizing geopathic stress? Some doctors believe it's impossible to do so, but I'm hoping there's a solution, as I never want to move, and geopathic stress is a problem in my home. How do they determine the cosmic tower works for geopathic stress? Is there equipment that measures, or were they just using muscle testing or dowsing?
Yeah, it's really funny that question came up now, because Harald is he's traveling through Spain, and he was talking, about the medical system, etc., and his simplified view on health. And one of the doctors stood up and actually said, "Hey, I'm in your audience, and I'm a doctor, but I also specialize in measuring geopathic stress. Would you mind if I test right here?" And Harald said, of course. So he did it in front of an entire crowd, and there were some big cosmic towers sitting there, and he was so amazed. He's like, I cannot find anything detrimental. It's all been neutralized. He was so impressed, actually, that he ordered a tower, a 250, that night, and Harald delivered it to his home the next day. So yes, it does neutralize the geopathic stress, because we always try to, catalog things like this is different from that, but on a real basic level, it's all those counterclockwise rotating fields, and that the cosmic tower flips into positive, life-giving, clockwise fields, whether this is a toxin in food, whether this EMF, or whether this is geopathic stress at the pure, simple base level, doesn't matter to it, because it gets it, how should I say, at a much deeper level.
Well, that is perfect. And again, I love when people have expertise, and having somebody who's an expert in geopathic stress providing information to help answer that. That warms my heart. Thank you, Nico. Okay, the other of the small two questions is, can my cosmic tower be discovered by some kind of measuring device by those who prefer the technology not exist?
Yes, they can do that. But they also have a lot on their hands right now. So the cosmic tower is not, their biggest adversary right now, and they have finite resources. So absolutely, it can be tuned into, and it could be taken out if they really wanted that. But again, this comes back to, we need the big towers, because if you look in Europe now, there's close to 800 of the large towers deployed. They cannot take them all out at once. They can take one out if they really wanted to, but then the rest of the network would start regenerating again, and it can be repaired. So it's a losing battle on their end, because they're relying on finite energy, while we have a continuous throughput of new and higher dimensional energy coming in. And basically, it could temporarily, let's put it, they could disarm it or disable it, but then it can be repaired.
And are Harald and his team constantly doing maintenance of the network? Like, how do repairs become apparent, and do they get done?
Well, first of all, it's conscious. The entire network is conscious, right? So with the right intention, and with the big cosmic towers watching over each other, a lot of that is being handled, through the souls of the network, through the network being conscious itself. And then, as far as tuning into, let's say you have a CT35 at home and you feel it might have been compromised. Yeah, Harald has, a group of highly spiritual people that do that go tune into it and make repairs or direct repairs as it's needed, or do a reset. For example, if a cosmic tower transfers from one owner to the next, you can actually have it, reset to where it becomes attuned to you, and that's also taken care of by that same group of people.
That's great. Okay, guys, I'm down to my last question for Nico. It's a great one, which is, tell us about your experience with traveling with the tower. We got one more, a little more practical one. We'll get this. I was looking at where to place it. 2 feet from an outlet is next to a lamp that is plugged into an extension cord. Is that okay?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be okay. Preferably, you want to keep it away as much as you can, right, from any outlets, but it's not going to interfere with its function. Also, when you get your cosmic tower, you'll become aware of where it needs to be. Like, it guides you in that sense.
Yeah, awesome. How can a Cosmic Tower owner reset it by themselves?
Well, you can ask Harald's team by sending them a picture, or you can basically do it for yourself. You can attempt it, which is basically requesting it, right, to have a new soul come in if that's needed, or to release all the connections to the previous owner, and right, giving you the opportunity to be fully become attuned with it.
Right on. Okay, cool. All right, tell us about Egypt. What have you learned? What have you experienced while traveling with the Cosmic Tower 35 in this sacred land?
Yeah, I mean, what I did get was a lot of confirmations about the Cosmic Tower and it being conscious, etc. So we did a 9 initiations on the Nile, where we traveled the Nile on a cruise, not a cruise ship, like a sailboat that we had to ourselves with a small group of people. And our guide and the person that facilitated all our temple visits is a Scheherazade Awian, and she is the daughter of Abdel Hakim Awian, a wisdom keeper of ancient Egypt, an archaeologist, Egyptologist, and also the founder of chematology. And you can see him in the Pyramid Code, which was done years ago, and he speaks a lot in there about what he believed the pyramids and the temples, etc., really were, and how they were built, etc. So she comes from a lineage of 5 generations, and they live right by the Sphinx, right by the Giza Plateau. So what she did is she took us through 9 of the temples, each day a temple and an initiation, and basically told us how to use the technology that is in these living libraries, which was it's all about activating what they call the netters, which are the divine aspects within each and every one of us. So that was an amazing experience. It was, a lot of heavy lifting on an energetic level, a lot of energetic work that had to be done, on a lot of letting go of things. But what happened was we also stopped at the house in Luxor where we are living and where the Cosmic Tower is. And I've taken the approach when groups come to visit here, I don't go, it sits in a place where everybody can see it when you come in. And I don't typically tell people, hey, this is the Cosmic Tower, you've got to see this. And I'm no longer like, hey, we have to convince everybody. It's like, let's see who takes note, who takes notice, and who notices it. And long story short, what had happened, we got back to Cairo because we had the Great Pyramid to ourselves for 2 hours in the morning. We got a private permit, and they opened up everything in the Great Pyramid. And Scheherazade, actually, after that visit, she came to me and she's like, I got to ask you something. You live in an amazing house there, but there was this device sitting there, and it felt very different. Can you tell me what it is? It's like, well, it's a Cosmic Tower, and I gave her the short version of it. She's like, oh, you don't have to tell me more. I can intuitively feel what it does. And then she told me, she's like, can you show me a picture of it? Because we were back in Cairo, and I had left it in Luxor. And she's like, I want to connect to it. And she's told me, I haven't told her any of all this. She's like, you can talk to it, right? She has a message for you. Now, what was interesting in the house that we live here, it's like a temple house, and it has these blue windows everywhere. And one of the things that I didn't like is that I couldn't find a spot where natural sunlight would kind of hit the tower where it gets a beautiful spark in its eye. So she tuned into the Cosmic Tower from Cairo, and she's like, well, I have a message from you from her, which was also interesting because my Cosmic Tower, I named it, and it's a female name, even though these are higher dimensional energies beyond male or female. But she said, here's a message from her. She would like to have a little ray of sunlight. She told me that you would understand what that means. So I had to laugh because here, is somebody that is really well respected here and an ancient wisdom keeper coming from that lineage, and I barely have to say anything. She noticed it, and she was able to communicate with me, and she flat out told me, I didn't tell her any of this, like, hey, this is conscious, and you can communicate with it. And after she did that, I was like, would you like to know more? She's like, absolutely not. I'm so happy you're doing this and that you're bringing this in, because this is exactly what we need. I can totally feel the harmony of the field and how it's going to benefit the planet. So for me, that was beautiful to have that conversation with her and to get that confirmation without me even, setting her up or introducing her to the Cosmic Tower. She had just felt it. I mean, we live in an amazing house here, but she had been drawn to it, and she told me later on, she literally stood in front of it for like 15 minutes asking, what is this? This feels amazing. Yeah.
That's great. Well, again, super fun to interact with the community and hear how their experience bumps into it. I just love that. I love these stories coming out. Thank you for sharing that. Is there anything else from your trip that you want to share, or is it time to wrap up?
I think it's time to wrap up, at least for me. It's almost 11 o'clock here. So yeah, the Cosmic Tower, I mean, it loves it here. And my 35 has a diameter of about 300 meters here. There's no 5G here in Egypt, and we're on the West Bank in Luxor, which is agricultural area. So yeah, it's doing really well here. And I took her on the Nile on the cruise boat for a few days too, and she really loved that.
That's great. Well, keep experimenting and learning and collecting more information for us. And thank you for staying up late. We sure appreciate it. And thank you to everybody who attended the call. I think you all are getting the picture of how important it is that this be a community project. So it takes all of us. It takes all of our special skills and understanding to discern what this is and what it means and what our role is. So whether you're here to witness it or to purchase one or to contribute something to the conversation, it's all valuable. And I appreciate that you're here. And yeah, we'll schedule a new one when we have some more information to share with you guys, and we'll keep you updated on the milestones of getting that container here. So I think that's about it. So I'm going to go ahead and end the call. Thank you all for being here. All right, bye everybody.